Hi, welcome to episode 244 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarns, and we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, September 2nd, which is the Labor Day holiday here in the US. So my husband and I are off today and enjoying an extra day together. It has been a pretty busy week with some fun things, and then this weekend we mostly hung out on Saturday. Yesterday we went out with some friends, and mostly we've just been taking it easy this weekend. The weather this week was lovely, and up through about yesterday was really nice. Today it is pretty humid and hot, but got out, did some exercising, fixed some issues with the house. We had a portion of our driveway that has been damaged in all the recent rain, so yesterday we filled it with concrete, which was exciting for me. I have not done that before. My husband did all the really hard work, but I got to stand there with the hose and the various tools, handing them to him. So he was lifting the 80-pound bags of concrete. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Lots of crafting, lots of hanging out, enjoying the weather, and I guess that's about it for this week. I hope that you are having a lovely week or weekend. I suppose if you are outside the United States, then your week started again today. I wish you a lovely week, and let's talk about the crafts. Today I am drinking an Appalachian mint tea. I picked some up in West Virginia several years ago, liked it, ordered more. This is mint, persimmon, strawberry, and sassafras. Brew as a regular tea. I'm actually having it iced today, which you can't tell because the ice is gone. I brewed it hot and then poured it over ice with just a little bit of sugar. It's just a very pale green, and I really like mint tea when it's hot out. And it was a little too warm for hot tea today, so this is just sweet mint tea. It's a nice mint even without a little touch of sugar, but I add just a little bit. And that is what I am drinking today. So let's get on to the crafts. I actually have a few finished objects to show you. The first we talked about last week, and that was a hat that I am designing with my friend Christine's Treasure Goddess yarn. This is Treasured Warmth Worsted, which is her superwash merino worsted in the colorway Swimmin' with the Fishies. It's 100 grams, 200 meters, 218 yards, machine wash on gentle or hand wash, dry flat. And this is all I have. Whoop, it flew away. I have a ball about this big left. So let's talk about it. This is the hat that I designed. The pattern will be forthcoming. It will be a freebie pattern and will be published towards the end of the month. I was inspired to do a blue hat by Hat Not Hate, which is Lion Brand's project against bullying. Just so you know, the hat will come in two sizes, kind of a small medium and a medium large. I knit the medium large just to make sure that there would be enough yarn available for it. To be honest, my head is probably more of a small to medium. It is a pretty simple hat. It's got a fairly repetitive, it's a broken rib pattern with some ribbing down at the bottom. I designed it so that it could be quite versatile. Then I put my hair up in a ponytail today, which probably wasn't the best because I can't really model it. It can be a little slouchy. You can add a pom-pom or not. You can make it a little more close-fitting as a beanie. I chose to just go with about 1.5 inches of ribbing at the bottom, but you can customize it. You can make a doubled folded over hem. There will be some notes in the pattern about that. It is just a simple hat, and I love, love, love the yarn. It is a bright, cheerful blue, and it's a semi-solid, so it's got a little bit of variegation in there. You can see just little bits of white and darker colors, and then of course I finished it off with a pom-pom. It still needs a good blocking, and then I just need to finish up the pattern, and like I said, that will be published for free at the end of the month, and once that goes live I will let you know and put it in my show notes. Otherwise, keep an eye on my Instagram, or I will upload it, not the pattern itself, but I will upload all the information to Ravelry once it is live. So I haven't completely decided what I'm going to call it, but I think I'm going to call it Undaunted. I had a bunch of ideas on what to call it, and of course I did kind of a perusal through Ravelry to see what names were in use. Originally, I was thinking about calling it the Pharaoh hat because it is, the stitch pattern is a Pharaoh rib that I have modified just a little bit. And so I was going to call it that, but there are a million patterns on Ravelry called Farrow, Farrow. And so I tried to decide what I was going to call it, and I wanted to tie it into Hat Not Hate, and I was thinking about Brave, but there are a million patterns that have the word Brave in them, and then I was looking up Bravery, and there weren't that many patterns for Bravery, but then I looked up in the thesaurus to see what some synonyms for bravery would be, and one of them was Undaunted, and there is no pattern by that name, and I just like the idea that it conveys. The whole point of this hat, or my inspiration behind this hat, was Lion Brand's anti-bullying campaign, and to get up and go to school each day, particularly if kids around you are bullying you or are cruel, you kind of have to be brave and undaunted and keep going forward. So I think I'm probably going to call it Undaunted, and that is the pattern. So I need to work on that for the rest of the month. It should come out towards the end of the month, and again, I will let you know the details. So that is one project done and dusted, which is good because I have plenty of things to conquer this month. The other project that I ended up finishing, which wasn't exactly intentional, it just sort of happened because I was at a loss for a project that I could take in the car with me. As I've said before, a lot of times I don't take my more complicated projects in the car with me, and I needed something roundy, and I will say that the ends are not woven in on these, so they are not finished, but I believe I had one of these finished, and I picked up the other one and knit it this week, and these are socks for Miles. And this is out of the Mustache Yarns. It is the Fiesta 10 Days of Fiesta colorway, which is for Fiesta in San Antonio, and I used some contrasting yarn for the heel, because I am trying to also get a pair of socks for Roxy out of these. If you remember, I knit a pair of shorties for myself, and then I knit Miles socks, and now I'm going to knit Roxy's with what's left. I have plenty left. This is just one ball, and it's all tangled. Whew. Let's see if I can get this. Aha! This is just one ball. If you remember, the Mustache Yarns come in perfect pairs, which is they come in or not perfect pairs, I can't remember what she calls them, but they come in two exact skeins wound exactly the same way so that you can knit two identical socks, so your stripes start and stop in the same place. And I have been working with them for my own socks and for Miles socks from one end of the ball so that I know that I can make Roxy's socks match. And so here we go. Here are the two balls that I have left, and I should have plenty to do her socks. I do have more of the contrast heels and toes in this purple, which I will probably, well, I probably won't do the toes. I'll probably do the heels and then maybe the cuffs, but I'll just have to see how my yarn plays out. For Roxy's, I am going to knit them toe up so that I can use all the yarn that's available and I don't have to guess how long to make the cuff so that I don't run out of yarn at the toes. So those will be cast on at some point in the not too distant future, and a small pair of baby socks is done. I guess he's not a baby. He's going to be three in about a month and a half. So, but those are for him for Christmas. So those are my finished objects for the week. The other thing that I am working on, I showed you last week, it is a sample. It is a shawl for Zen Yarn Garden for their booth. And I talked last week about it. The pattern is Love You Baby by Suzanne Summer, who is Sosu Knits. And it is a brioche shawl with some short row garter stripes and some short row seed stitch shaping. And it's got a bunch of different textures. And of course I'm in the middle of the row, so showing you this will be really weird and awkward, and I will just try my best. I finished section 1 of the shawl, which is, well, let's talk about this a little bit. It is a 3-color shawl, and then the colors alternate between the sections so that you've got different colors and different textures in different spots. And I am using Zen Yarn Garden, and I am using a combination of their super super fine fingering, which is 100% it's superwash merino and nylon. And then I am also using their Serenity 20, which is a merino cashmere nylon. And the bases are roughly comparable in terms of yardage. So I believe they're exactly the same in terms of yardage. Where's the other card? I lost one of my cards. But, and the colorways are not named. They are numbers and letters. So they're from the Dye Pot Dabbler series, which is a bunch of the dyers just dye up a bunch of their colors. Some of them are available on the site. Some of them are not. All the colorways are in my show notes and also on my Ravelry project page. So the first section of this shawl is a big brioche section between colors A and B. And that I have now finished. So I will attempt to show you that. It's still connected to the balls and I'm working on the next section, and yeah. So this is the brioche section I showed you last week. I only had the first little bit done, which was kind of up in this corner. And the front color is kind of a white with some turquoise and cherry and some chocolate color. It was kind of the first color that I was drawn to. And then the B color is this riotous pink and red, which is on the back. And of course, brioche is 2-color knitting, so you can see each of the colors through the other. But that is the first section, and it is a big, big asymmetrical triangle. And I just finished that last night. So now I am working on the second section of the pattern, which is between colors A and C, and it is a garter ridge stripe. And you can just see I have just the first few rows done. Unfortunately, the contrast between skeins A and C is not as much as I would like it to be. When I knit this shawl, I had kind of some semi-solids. And one was a speckle, and one was a little bit more semi-solid. It had it had a bunch of colors in it, but it was like a dark color that had a bunch of little colors washed over it, and then a light color that had a bunch of colors speckled over it. So I don't know how this section is going to turn out, because the yarns, A, again, is this turquoise and cherry and chocolate, and then C is this kind of watercolors, so it's like dark blues and greens and turquoises, and so the turquoise part matches, and they look kind of different in the skein, but then when you go to put them next to each other, some of the sections you can see there's some contrast right here with the white, but some of them tend to like blend together where the turquoises are both appearing. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to turn out, but I am on section 2 and hope to work on that and possibly finish that this week. I would love to have the sample cranked out pretty quickly. It will not be done by next week. I can promise you that. And then section 3 is a seed stitch with just this color. So if I could work on sections 2 and 3 this week and get make good headway on those, I would be really pleased. And then I can work on section 4 next week and then maybe call it a day. So I'm very pleased with my progress. These are what I have left of my yarns. After this section, A will no longer be used. B is used in the border, and mostly we're going to focus on C now. So I have done quite a bit of knitting this week to get these 2 balls down, because they were originally this size. And yeah. So I really enjoy this knit. The first section is a little bit long. No lie, as I was getting towards the end of it, I was like, is this section ever going to end? But it has now ended, and now I'm working on the next section, and I really like this section because, like I said, it is short row and garter stitch, and so it's really super easy just to go back and forth. There's a huge rhythm of it. And I don't have to keep counting because I just know I need a certain number of ridges. On the brioche knitting, I was knitting until I got to a certain number of stitches. So that's kind of what's happening. And the reason there are 2 needles in this is because this side is now on, this edge right here is now on hold until it gets picked back up. And what I did is, rather than putting it on waste yarn, which is what the pattern recommends, I slipped it onto a smaller needle just so that it's there and ready to go. And so again, now I am working on this section, and the problem is that I am in the middle of a row, so it's all kind of wrapped around the needles. Hopefully by next week I'll be able to show you something that looks a little bit more like a shawl and a little less like a weird Tetris or Jenga or Twister or whatever. So yeah, that's my shawl. Okay, yeah, that was really goofy, but you know. Okay, so that is the knitting. Also on the needles, but I did not bring it, is I started Miss Roxy's sweater. It's her birthday sweater, and her birthday is at the end of October, so I am working on it and hoping to crank it out so I can also crank one out for Miles. This year I asked her what she wanted, and she told me she wanted a sweater with light pink and light blue stripes, and I found a great pattern that I'm going to use for both kids, and I ordered the yarns, and I went ahead and started putting together the light pink and the light blue, and I hate it. It looks like a baby sweater, and I don't like it, and I know it's what she requested, but I'm going to exercise a little bit of veto power because I really don't like the two colors that I bought next to each other. So I had bought some yarn from Webb's. I believe it's their Valley Superwash DK, and I'll talk about it next week because what I did is I went back and I ordered a couple balls of navy because I have this really light kind of a petal pink color, and rather than using the light blue, I think I'm going to use navy. I think it'll be a little bit more sophisticated. It won't look quite as much like a baby sweater, and I really do like navy against light pink, and I just think that's going to be a much better sweater for her. Something about it wasn't sitting right with me. So, and then I'm going to use the blue that I bought for Roxy, and I was already going to do this. I'm going to use the blue with a kind of a light gray in a sweater for Miles. So the sweaters will kind of match, but they'll be completely different colors. Just the same pattern. And I'll just have a couple of skeins left over, and I can turn it into a blue hat for Hat Not Hate. It is kind of a light sky blue, but I think when not put with a pink, it may not look quite so babyish. Anyway, so I will use those extra skeins. It's not a big deal. I didn't bring it to show you because I don't have much to show you. I knit the collar in the pink, and then I went ahead and started on the light blue stripe, and I hated it. So that's all there is. I did like the first light blue stripe, and I was like, nope, don't like this. Gonna order some more yarn. So I know Webb's is probably a little slow with the holiday, but I'm hoping maybe that will be here by the end of this week, and I can start Roxy's sweater in earnest and show that to you next week. So that is all the knits. Let me take a sip of tea, and then we can talk about the spins, and then we'll be done. So last week I showed you some fiber that I was spinning from Oink Pigments, and I picked it up at TNA this year. I have to correct myself. I said I thought it was a merino silk. It turns out it is a BFL silk, and it's a 75-25% blend. And I finished it, and it was in kind of peachy and pinky tones. One of you told me you thought it looked like a grapefruit sorbet, and I'm inclined to agree. It is beautiful. So this is what we finished with. It is probably close to 300 yards, so it's probably somewhere between a DK and a worsted. I ended up spinning the second half much thicker than I intended to. I didn't quite mean to. The first half was fairly thin, but the second half was a little bit thicker, so it is a little bit thicker. But I just love the way it's kind of a semi-solid and the colors just blend. I think it would be really sweet in a lot of things. It would make a nice kerchief. It's kind of that coral color, which is wonderful for this year. It also would make something sweet for a baby, although it is not superwash. So that would be something to beware. With the BFL silk, it is just a little bit lustrous and shiny, and it is super soft. So it also could be like some great fingerless mitts for the fall. This one is not quite dry, and I do need to kind of weigh and measure it, but then it will probably go up in my shop this week. So if this is a color that you are enjoying, this might be for you. So that brings me to what I'm going to spin this week. I went and found, this is some somewhat mystery wool in my stash. It was given to me by a friend. It feels like merino, so I'm probably going to go with that. I don't know for sure whether it is superwash or not. It did take the color quite brilliantly, so it could be, but I'll probably just call it merino just to be safe. And it is in kind of these fun colorways. It's got some purple and some brown and some orange and some blue, and it kind of reminds me of summer, and so I'm going to spin it sort of as my goodbye to summer, hello to fall. And I just think this will make a fun kind of Barber Pole yarn. I don't know. I just thought I would give it a try this week. So we'll play with this one on the wheel this week. I will probably throw this one up in the shop, but because I'm not 100% sure of the fiber content, my guess is it will be at a pretty severe discount. So if something fun like this looks like it might be for you, keep an eye out for it, because that's what I will be doing this week. But it is a mystery braid, and I thought it was time to get it out of the stash. And if it doesn't sell, then I'll probably use it for a stuffed animal or something fun. So that is what I'm going to be working on this week. And I think that is all I have to show you. I know it's kind of a quick podcast. I've been doing a lot of work on one particular garment. So, that kind of takes up a lot of the podcast. So I hope if you are in the US, you are having a lovely holiday weekend. And if you are not in the US, I hope that your week has gotten off to a great start. As always, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. So I will say, until I see you again, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!